What's going on, guys? I'm Chris, and this is Regular Guy Training. Now, first and foremost, I know people were screeching in the comments. I absolutely did have ear protection on. Now, here's the thing. Quick little pro tip, right? This works as ear protection, like spent brass and stuff like that. If it's 9mm or 5.56 223 brass works too, actually. If you clean it up, make sure that you get like hand sanitizer. I dropped one. Get hand sanitizer on it and sterilize it a little bit. You can jam it in your ear, rim side first, and it'll actually work. I actually learned this trick from a buddy of mine while we were on a crew serve range and stuff like that, my buddy Sanchez. And he's one of those dudes where, like, if he comes up to you and says, oh yeah, you can totally do this, there's a solid chance that he's just screwing with you and he wants you to do something stupid. So, like, when he came up to me and he had a couple of things of brass sticking out of his ears, I was like, what is wrong with you, dude? And he looks at me and he goes, yeah, man, it works really good as like ear pro. And I looked at this as I'm cleaning off a couple of pieces of brass, like, man, this is like going to try and find grid squares at Supply because we need to complete our map, right? And I just figured that he was just screwing around. But nah, I jammed those things in my ears and they worked really well. So if you're irresponsible like me and you show up to the range without ear protection, that'll work just fine for you. Just make sure to sterilize the cases and stuff first. You don't want to jam like dirt and stuff in there. And brass works way better than steel and stuff. Steel tends to like rust, and you don't want to jam that in your head. Also, if you're doing it for a few hours, like I was today, it gets annoying because you can feel it. So, on to the review though. You guys probably read the title and you saw me start shooting this thing and you figured, what is the big deal about this? It's just yet another M4 type clone and all that stuff. And for the most part, I actually 100% agree with you. It's mostly not special, mostly. Now, here's the thing. With this individual upper and all that stuff, we have some things that are actually pretty neat about it. Now, this is sold from Bravo Company Manufacturing as their SOCOM profile upper, right? And their SOCOM profile, the SOCOM profile that they're referring to is the barrel profile. Now, what is so special about the barrel profile if it's SOCOM profile and all that stuff? It sounds super tactical and useless. I swear to God, it's not. Now, a lot of you may look at this and you'll notice right away that it is much more stout than essentially like a basic bitch M4 or most ARs that run in like carbine length and stuff like that. You notice that very, very quickly. And it's not a mind trick or anything like that. That barrel profile is actually a bit more stout than regular run-of-the-mill M4 type barrel. Now, the reason why the SOCOM profile barrels were even born was because in the earlier days when SOCOM was using M4s as their mainline rifle, the M4 was essentially just designed at that point to just be a larger M1 carbine, right? Wasn't made for frontline type stuff, wasn't made for anything other than like support personnel and stuff like that, but SOCOM took a liking to the compactness of the rifle and its maneuverability and all that jazz. And this is before like the Mark 18 and all that stuff, right? Well, back around the time that I joined the Army, that's around 2008. Well, in 2008, obviously. A lot of people may or may not remember how hot the XM8 was, right? It was like this super duper rifle to end all rifles type of deal. And like I remember going through reception and seeing posters of this thing, like the motivational posters that they put up, telling you how awesome the Army is. And it was a bunch of dudes that were running around with XM8s. Around that time, we were also messing around with the SCAR program and stuff, and it's around the evolution of like the M416 and the SCAR Light program and the ACR, or back then it was referred to as the Masada, all that stuff. And the reason for all these rifles coming up for like special operations and not for mainline Army was because mainline Army wasn't using these guys as a support rifle, meaning just running it full auto over and over and over again. to support like leapfrogging type maneuvers and bounding type maneuvers and stuff like that a lot of special operations dudes like to do. Mainline Army wasn't seeing any issues from them, but SOCOM really was. They were killing the shit out of rifles. Like they would kill the heat treating out of the barrels after spending like a teen or so's worth of magazines on full auto, and they would kill the heat treating in the barrels, and then they go to use them again and blow them out at about here, like right behind the gas block and stuff. Or they were ripping bolt heads off or shearing lugs. They were having real problems with extraction issues. That's when the anti-tilt follower on magazines started to become a thing, because the tilting followers have problems in full auto, that type of stuff. And that's really where it all stemmed from, was the need for that. Now, this particular upper follows Colt's response, because they tried to do a piston-driven program, and the SCAR beat it out, probably just because dudes were not very trustful of Colt at the time. Because there were a lot of articles that came out and were super damning toward Colt and the M4. But Colt went quietly behind that, and they started to improve their regular M4 as a mainline rifle. And that included a lot of things. Most of the improvements were made to the upper. Now, the upper itself, for like the new M4A1 rifles, as they were to be called, had the beefier profile barrel that I mentioned. They had M4 feed ramps. They ended up with the H buffers in them, and they also ended up with improved extractors. Improved extractor springs, as well as the introduction of a little rubber insert that's inside of the spring. Like, they changed from the nickel-plated spring to a copper-plated spring that had like an extra coil or so on the spring itself, and then they had the little rubber insert, and then they had the rubber O-ring on top of that, and then increased the extraction force of about 4. Mostly because under the higher cyclic rates of a carbine length gas system, they were really having problems. Also, they upped the heat treating of like their bolt carrier groups and stuff like that. But the point is that they went quietly behind that, made all these improvements, and then suddenly all the issues that people were talking about as far as the M4 and it breaking and having catastrophic failures pretty much ceased to exist, because its number of magazines that it could handle in full auto fire went from like the teens into the mid to heavy 20s, and that pretty much sees a lot of people through most things, and it keeps heat treating from being compromised and all that. An additional thing that this particular upper has is that it does have better base accuracy than standard M4 does, because of the more stout profile barrel in the rear, and then it tapers down. It only really tapers up again once you have the cut for the 203s there. So, with that all being said and whatnot, it turned into a wash. It's pretty much why the SCAR Light program died, because the M4 is pretty awesome now, and all the negative criticism, people are starting to be like, why was this terrible in the first place? Because it's running great now, and they've never really been told about the huge improvements made. They had to figure out what the improvements were themselves. So with those improvements made, the M4A1 pretty much killed off the SCAR Light program. Like, the heavy still chilling in SOCOM circles now, and special operations circles and all that jazz. But now it's one of those things where it's pretty awesome now. It reaffirmed itself as the mainline rifle for special operations use, and even the regular army is getting refitted with M4A1s, even to the point where it's been going on to such an extent to where even reserve component dudes are getting them now, including the unit that I just came from. So, it's actually pretty neat. The reason why this is, quote, special, and why it merited a video for me personally, is that this individual upper receiver is pretty much the new latest thing as far as the evolution of the military M4 and stuff. So it's got a more stout barrel. It's definitely more accurate than it was before. It handles heat better. And because of the more stout weight here, it actually handles its own recoil impulse pretty well. You know, even with the widgets and stuff that I have on here, it balances pretty good. A loaded magazine and all that. Now, cons. This is a more stout configuration. Like if you throw a regular lower on this guy and then put this guy up here, you'll notice really fast that it is more stout. It's not very light. You notice it the second that you pick it up. Guns with longer rail systems and all this other stuff, like you guys seen the RWMD rifle that I have, this is easily much heavier than that. I haven't put them on a scale, but you can feel it right away. This is a more stout rifle. But really, that's it. As far as accuracy and reliability, these guys are right at 1.5 minute of angle. You guys will see some accuracy, an accuracy demonstration here. The first one that I did was at 50 yards, and I was nice and calm, and you can see those rounds stacking on top of each other, which it should at 50 yards. And then you can see me shooting quite a bit faster at 100, and you can see, I mean, even with the faster pace shooting and me not doing it patiently, they still stack up real well. And that's even with like Wolf ammo and stuff, okay? Another testament to this thing's accuracy, really, is that it holds itself together even at greater ranges. Like as a 14.5 and configured as is, it was quite easy. You guys might remember the ACOG review that I did. I took that guy out to Valor Ridge and went to Rifle 2 with it, and single shot hits at 600, no problem. Swinging hostage plates at 200 regularly from the not prone position, like kneeling and sitting and stuff like that, you know. The only time that I would have issues is if the software was wrong, like if I wasn't on my game. Lower muzzle velocities and stuff, yeah, I played a little bit of hell with the ammo that was out there, especially with the wind conditions that we had, but still, I mean, if you got a good read on the wind, you could smack it real easy, even with a military weight trigger. Oh, speaking of military weight triggers, I'm noticing this a little bit more and more as I'm starting to mess with more and more ARs and stuff like that. They're abiding very, very closely to the whole Milspec thing. And the Anderson lower that I had on here had a commercial hammer in it. I thought it was a firing pin issue. I might have screwed something up or just broke it. But I noticed that that had a commercial hammer in it, and that's why you guys see it in the little intro that I switched from a black lower to this one, because this has a military hammer in it, which is more squared off. There isn't a little notch cut into it and stuff. So if you're gonna throw this guy onto a lower receiver, just make sure that you have a military hammer in it. I'm not sure if that was the cause of light strikes, which I was getting a bunch of. Fairly inconsistent, but I was starting to get them a bunch. And then I threw this guy on a lower that has a military hammer on it, and because that was the only difference that I could really think up. And it's been running, you guys saw me shoot a lot with it, and it ran just fine. So that's the only thing I would really watch, and that's about it, really. So, to be short, if you're building a rifle, this is one of their cheapest uppers. on BCM. So if you're building an upper and you want an upper that will run really well, that's pretty good at shooting stuff up close, is pretty good at shooting stuff far, and you want it to be reliable, like it's not at all a guessing game. BCM has always been awesome, but this upper is just a tick over 400. It's one of their cheapest uppers, and I tell you what, it's awesome. Like, especially for what it is, to make this like an M4 clone or whatever. It's been fantastic. So, and it's been a great little experimentation rifle, because you see the hollow sun that's up here, you see the Streamlight ProTac that's up here, and all that. And I've just been running the crap out of it, putting it through, giving it to students to run through classes and stuff, and it's run great. Between me, which I did most of the shooting with it, and between other students shooting it and stuff like that, we're right at about 6,000 rounds with it. I probably shot about, I would say 4,500 of those rounds. It's kind of hard to keep up because this meanders its way around and I don't keep very close eye on it. But based on the classes that I've been to in the past, it's at least 4,000. Random shooting and stuff out here at another 500-ish rounds. And then, well, because like the action footage for this, pretty close to that. So, and then it was run through by a couple of students. So, you know, we're right around in that area there. But it's been awesome. You know, the only issue I've ever had was with the commercial hammer rather than the military hammer. So that's all I got on it, really. It's accurate, it's reliable, and it's cost effective. And that's one of the reasons why this review exists. So if you want to check us out on our discussion page, go ahead and check that out on the link in the description below for the Facebook page. Come train with us. We have our dedicated AK class coming in mid-September, and we also have, and that's like a Friday, that's a 3-day class. It's Friday through Sunday. It's a lot of people that end up at this class learn a lot. So, you know, there's all that. And then we have our performance rifle and pistol classes coming up after that in late September. So, you know, come train with us. Link for that website is in the description below. By the way, when you get to the website and you want to like look around and peruse for classes and stuff, on the top right of the page, you're gonna see a link that drops down for mobile guys. You'll see like a little tab with 3 lines on it. You can click on that and it drops down a menu, and you'll see event list. So just click on event list, and then you can scroll through what we have. For guys on a laptop, it just says event list on the top right, and then you can go from there. I've seen a lot of you guys are making accounts on the website and stuff like that too. We got a few registrations for classes and stuff, but I have gotten a couple of questions as to how the website works. So there you go. And also, if you want to support us on Patreon, you can go ahead and do that. Where pretty much all that money is going right now is to bring soldiers to our classes. Like every class that we do, we bring a soldier in, pay for his plane ticket, pay for his ammo, and if we have to, supply him guns and stuff like that, to come out and train for free with us. And there's also other things that are related to the school, like you as the individual can benefit from it. Like we have a $35 a month program where you pay us $35 a month and you get unlimited training for as long as you stay there. So essentially, for the price of just over 2 classes a year, you're training with us as many times as you want to. And there's a bunch of people, and you can sound off in the comments and stuff, that are taking massive advantage of this. So, you know, all that stuff is there. But let me know what you guys think. If any of you guys own the SOCOM profile upper, which is kind of rare. I don't see that very often. You know, let me know what your experience is on it, because mine's been awesome. So let me know if there's somebody who hated theirs, or if they got a lemon or something. Also let me know. But that's all I got. So, with all that being said, a regular guy's firearm is the last defense against tyranny. Be easy.